So right now I'm actually in between clients, but I felt the urge to get on here and talk. I have an hour to relax and rewind and just release. And right now I feel the urge to talk about a learning curve. So a learning curve includes mistakes, okay? So when you're, an apprentice, and when you are interning, or when you are new on the job and you have to go through a training period, this is a learning curve. You're in the mix of something now that you have not done before, or in a new environment that you have not been in before, or meeting people that you did not know before. There's a learning curve to that. So I want to talk about, this learning curve in life, okay? Because life is full of mistakes. And a lot of times people get stuck when they make a mistake, or when a mistake happens to them, they get stuck in that mistake. There's no curve when it comes to the learning. It's, they get stuck before that learning curve. I was actually reading the Bible, the book of Ruth. The book of Ruth is short and sweet. We're going to get into that. So I've been thinking about redefining your life. It means to define again, or differently. So when you're spiritual like I am, there's always going to be a redefining in your life. God is always going to give you a new task. God is always going to put you in new places, in new spaces, or you might be in the same space, in the same place, but there's a redefining within your insides that's happening. Let's talk about that redefining of who you are spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Let's get into that. In the book of Ruth, it was about something horrible happened to Naomi. Her husband died, and then it was 10 years later she lost both of her sons. And that story resonates with me because she wasn't alone in the sense of, not having anybody there. She had the support of her two sons' wives, which were her daughter-in-laws. One was named Ruth, and then the other Orpah. So in the redefining, in the midst of Naomi's redefining and Ruth's redefining, they set out on a mission to go back to Naomi's hometown, to Judah. So on their way there, on their journey, Naomi, says to her daughter-in-laws, go back to your own mothers and your gods, and let me go back to mine. I could just imagine her, as a woman, as having survivor's guilt and just broken from the death of her husband, the death of her two sons, and now going on this journey. And she's telling the two people left with her, her daughter-in-laws, who have no blood bond to her, she's telling them, go. So I can only imagine Naomi's pain that she's going through at this point, and she tells them to just go back, But Oprah goes back, and Ruth stays with Naomi. And this was such a pivotal point in the book of Ruth, because not only was Ruth loyal to Naomi, but Naomi was loyal to Ruth. In a sense, she took care of her. She made sure, that if you're going to be with me, then let's go, pretty much. Naomi's part in the Bible is so small, but I can feel for her. And her and Ruth's relationship was a very, very special relationship. It was so special. But when you really think about Naomi, okay, not only has she lost something, right? Not only has she lost her husband and her two sons, but she is in this redefining moment of, let me leave everything behind and let me go on this journey. Okay, she was in the now, and she's like, okay, what's my next? So as she's redefining her life, she's, telling her daughter-in-laws, go your way, I go my way. But Ruth sticks by her. So as she goes to Judah, she actually changes her name to Mara. And that is another pivotal point in the story, because she was a little bitter towards God. She said that God has showed his wrath on me. Like, that part just stuck with me, because sometimes, going through life, if you're in the middle of a redefining of who you are, of your past and of your now and of your next. She was in a redefining, and she didn't even know it. So many times in life, you know, you go through things. You always have to take that first step. That's why it's so pivotal in the story when Naomi's like, I'm going this way. You know, I'm going to just leave. I have nothing here. I'm going this way. You know, or there's nothing more for me here. Let's go this way. So in life, sometimes you find yourself saying that, whether it's with situations or people, you know, in the workplace, like different jobs, you find yourself redefining yourself. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, it's a job that you just up and leave, or, you know, you're in a marriage and you just separate from that person. A lot of times people get confused when it comes to growth within yourself, and you're not always going to be the same person. Like Naomi, she said, my name is Mara now. You know, like she done been through some things. The people there, you know, she couldn't get with the people that in the town that she was with, and she had to go back to her old hometown. You know, so we don't hear much about Naomi's life after the book of Ruth. But the fact that her name was mentioned so many times and that it's in the Bible, Naomi was a key character. I could not stop thinking about how she did not realize how much power she held, you know, by taking care of Ruth, bringing her in, and the generations that started after that. There was a redefining in her heart, and I wish that the story of Naomi, you know, continued and I could see, you know, what happened. Sometimes people get stuck on a mistake, or they get stuck on this happened to me, and they can't get over it, and they're just stuck in an endless cycle of, you know, being stuck where they're at. And I call those people anchors. When you're an anchor, you know, it's really heavy, you can't really move, and you're just stuck in that spot because it's just negativity and there's no out. You don't see that out. So Naomi is making these big decisions and these big moves, and it just seems like she didn't even understand what she was doing. And like, I was thinking about that. I found myself before in the past going through big, gigantic life changes, and in the midst of it, you know, I'm thinking like, oh, this is so chaotic. Like, oh, what's gonna happen next? I was stressing out about the next. I was in the now and I was stressing out about the next. But like, I was still making things happen, still, you know, making moves. When I was going through, you know, losing my apartment, I was like, oh God, what's next? I was like, well, let me just, you know, move to another state. I moved to a whole nother state, got a new apartment, and it was a redefining for me. But as I was going through it, I didn't understand. Once I got out of that situation and into, you know, this new state, God was connecting me with people, and I didn't understand why God was connecting with these people that, you know, had similar situations. And I was just like, oh man. But like, it was a moment that I had to realize you were taking those steps to go to the next. You were in the now, but you were taking those steps to go to the next, and you went on a journey. Just like Naomi's, just because the book of Ruth ended doesn't mean Naomi, you know, her story ended either. So in this word redefining, something is always going to be new. There's going to be a new task that God gives you. There's going to be a new task that God gives you, and another one and another one. And there's going to be these redefining moments that you change and that you grow. Just because a redefining happens, just because somebody changes in personality or in work life or in anything, you know, maybe you used to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, but now listen, you're waking up at 8 a.m. and your husband ain't getting breakfast at 6 a.m. before he leaves to work no more. When you're in a relationship, you know, your personality changes, you grow, you learn new things, you know, you expand on new things, and your partner has to be able to accept that and grow with you, just like Ruth did, you know. And I'm not, you know, talking bad about Orpah or anything. I, you know, was reading a little about Orpah, and Naomi, you know, she said, go back to your hometown. I'm going to my hometown with my God. You know, you go back to your hometown with your gods. And She did. That's her journey, and that's her redefining, right?